Okay, welcome to Module 4, Lesson 1. Okay, Module 4 is actually entitled, I'm sorry, not Module 4, but Module 4 is titled Percentages and Proportional Relationships, but this topic A, which contains 6 lessons, is called Finding the Whole. Okay, finding the whole. It's one of my favorite things to do, is working with percentages and decimals and fractions and their relationship. Okay, and this lesson 1 is going to focus on percent. Okay, and percent is something that we have been looking at. Probably most of us in this class have looked at before. Okay, some of us extensively, and looking at those relationships between percents, fractions, and decimals. Okay, so some of you may need less assistance, so you can just go ahead and fast forward through portions of this. Some of you, if you need more assistance, please take your time. Okay, we are all moving at our own pace. Okay, so firstly what we're going to do is we're going to do a sprint. Okay, now I did not put these in your binders because I forgot, and by the time you're watching this, you should have one of the sheets. I was going to pass those out in class, so you'll have these fractions, decimals, and percents sprints. This is round 1. There is a round 2, which I am going to hand out, but I'm not going to actually put on this this video. Okay, so I'm actually going to go ahead and give you a minute to do this sprint right now. The answers, the solutions to these sprints are going to be, or are posted on the website in our new section, and they will be they will appear right before the video. Okay, and you would have seen it before you started this video. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm setting my clock here for 1 minute, and here we go. Actually, I got to push this one button here first because I want to show you that it is sprint time. Okay. All right, so here we go. If you go ahead and pause if you need to, so you can go grab this sheet, find this sheet, might have it in your backpack still. Get a pencil ready, and I'm going to say, on your mark, get set, go. All right, so here we go. On your mark, get set, go. Okay, 30 seconds left. $15 seconds. 10 seconds. And stop. Okay, there we go. All right, hopefully you understood what to do, because I really didn't explain it, but it seemed a little self-explanatory. Just right up here, it was write each in number in the alternate form indicated. So it asked you to write 20 over 100, or 20 hundredths as a percent, and then hopefully you wrote something like 20, or not something like, but exactly 20%. Okay. All right. Anyway, well, that's that. We yeah, you could do round 2. Like I said, go ahead and correct those with the key that you find in the at the website. All right, it's just nice. We'll do some of these in class. Hopefully, want to work on our fluency with these conversions, because some of these need to become automatic. Okay, here we go. This is the first exercise here, and it's a matching exercise. What you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and match the percents over here that you see in this column here with the sentences over here. Okay, and I'm going to start with the sentences and then move and determine which which percentage is being written about. Now I'd like you to pause here because I want everyone to give this a whirl before you come back. Those of you who found this just very, very easy, and I know there will be a few of you, please move on. But those of you who would like to, please come back and we'll go over those together. Again, we're not about rushing. We are about taking all the time that we need, okay, to understand these different concepts. And like I said, a lot of us have done percentages and fractions and decimals, but some of us maybe never really got it, understood it. Okay, so go ahead and pause right now and finish these up, and come on back and check in with me. If you feel you can move on by yourself, just go right ahead and do that. Okay, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and go over all of these. All right. Okay, so I'm going to start the first one here, and I am half of a half. Okay, so 5 cubic inches of water filled in a 20 cubic inch bottle. Okay, now half of a half, I just went ahead and made a picture of it. I thought a picture would work really well. I drew a half, and then I drew a half of a half, and you can see how this picture is developing, and it is 1/4. I've now shaded in 1/4 of that picture, okay, by shading in half of a half. And again, we can see that 5 over 20, 5 cubic inches out of 20 cubic inches should be equal to 1/4, and it is indeed. I just need to divide by 5, divide 5 by 5, 20 by 5, and I get 1/4, and I'm just creating an equivalent fraction, truly. Okay, yeah, so 25% equals 1/4. Okay, 1/4 is the same as 25%, and that's one of those automatics that I would like to see you have. And again, there is that word of. Okay, we're going to talk about this word of again further down. If I'm half of a half, I know that's going to mean multiplication. So half of a half is 1/2 times 1/2, and that equals 1/4. Okay. Okay, so I'm less than 1 over 100, or less than 1/100th. Okay. Firstly, since all of those over here on the left-hand column here, they're all percentages. This one would help if we go ahead and write 1/100th as a percent, and 1 out of 100 is 1%. So 1 per 100, and that's exactly what 1 over 100 means. 1 per 100, and 1% means that exact thing. Okay, so 1%, less than 1%. If I go ahead and look at all of those percentages in that left-hand column, I can see pretty much none of those work, all the X'd out ones, but the only one that is actually less than 1%, very, very important, that less than idea, is that one down there, which is 1/2 of a percent. Okay, 1/2 of a percent is the only one less than 1%. Okay, so I'm drawing lines. I'm not sure if you did the same. Okay, so the next one is I am the chance of birthing a boy or a girl. This second one's probably better. Flip a coin and it would land on heads or tails, and that's in terms of probability. That's what this one kind of talks about, probability. What is the probability of, I'm spelling this wrong, but that's okay. What is the probability or the chance you will land on heads or tails? And that is always, every single time that you flip that coin, it's always going to be 1 out of 2. And that does not mean that you're going to get ahead every other time. It just means the chance or the probability is always 1 out of 2. Hey, chance of birthing a boy or a girl. What gender will your child be? It'll be a boy or it'll be a girl. You always have that 1 out of 2 chance. But there are families that have 5 girls, and families that have all boys. Okay, so we can't predict precisely things like coin flips and the gender of the child, but probability will always tell us it'll be 1 out of 2, and we all know if we turn 1 out of 2 into a percentage, that is 50%. 1/2 is the same as 50%. Okay? And here we go. So the next one says, I am less than a half, but more than 1/4. So we can, draw a little kind of a multiple inequality here, because we can say 1/2 is greater than this number, which is a question mark here, but this number is greater than 1/4. Okay, so we have a little multiple inequality here. Okay, so what is that number? What is that mystery number in the middle? Well, again, just like we did over here with the second one, let's go ahead and turn 1/2 and 1/4 into percentages. Okay, and as we know, 1/2, I've kind of drawn over that, haven't I? Yeah, 1/2 is 50%, like we just saw. Okay, and 1/4 is 25%. So which of those numbers along the side there is in between there? And of course that is 30%. Okay, 30%. But we can go ahead and look at this. Look at the 15 out of 50 players, 50 play drums in a band. If we do 15 out of 50, which is 15 over 50, that is equivalent to 3 over 10, and we know that 3 over 10 is also 30%. Okay, I am equal to 1. This hopefully was the easiest one of all. It should be, because 1 is a very special percentage, and that is 100%. If I get all of the questions right on a test, I get 100%. 100%, a very difficult thing to achieve in life generally, but yeah, 100%. That is 1, also known as 5 over 5, or 4 over 4, or 25 over 25, or 1 over 1, of course. Okay? Yes, 1 is 100%. Okay, so the next one is I am more than 1. Well, if you are more than 1, that means it's more than 100%. Okay, and the only number on that side, only percentage in that left-hand column, is 300%. So what does 300% look like as a fraction? Well, it could be 3 over 1. It could be 6 over 2. It could be 30 over 10. It's just that relationship between the numerator and the denominator. Okay, if it's 300%, it needs to be, numerator needs to be 3 times as big as the denominator. Okay? All right, yeah, so the next one there says I am 1/10 of a tenth. Let's go ahead and use multiplication to figure that one out. 1/10 times 1/10 is 1/100th, and we've already uncovered that 1/100th is the same as 1%. Draw the line, and there we go. 1 over 100 is 1%. And again, 1/10 of a tenth, all we have to do is do our multiplication to figure that one out. Well, the last one, of course, is only one answer left, all right? And I am less than 1/4, but more than 100th. Probably 11 out of 110 would probably be the easier way to look at this. I got to erase this stuff as I go. So 11 over 110 is equal to, or is equivalent to, both 11 and 110 are divisible by 11, of course. And yeah, so they equal 1 over 10, and 1 over 10 is 10%. 10%. And yeah, and that's it. Okay, and that's it. And yeah, 10% is less than 1/4, because 1/4 is 25%. It's more than 100th, because 100th is only 1%. Okay? Alrighty, well, hopefully you did a stellar job on those. Again, for some of you, just a piece of cake. For some of you, something you need to think about. So go over it again, find your perfect strategy, the one that'll work for you all the time when you are comparing decimals, fractions, and percentages. Okay, so next one here. It says color in the grids to represent the following fractions. So I'm going to go ahead and have you do that. Don't complete that example 1 down there, but just go ahead and do that opening exercise, and come on back when you're done. Okay, so let's see how you did. All right, so again, color in the grids to represent the following fractions. And you'll notice something which is really important. These are all 100 boards, okay? And what a 100 board is really good at is actually representing percentages, because percent, as we'll talk about later, and probably many, many more times, is means per 100, okay? Per 100. Always think of that. So yeah, each one of these fractions here very kindly has 100 as its denominator, okay? So if we did the, oh, sorry. Oh, dang it. Did that again. You know how I do that. Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Do that first one, okay? And if I go ahead and color that in, you can see I colored in 3 rows of 10, okay, and that was 30. So 30 out of 100, or 30/100ths of that board is now shaded in. The next one I only needed to shade 3 out of the 100, so that represents my 3/100ths right there. Now the second one's the third one is a little bit confusing, because that is what's referred to, and hopefully you can recognize this special fraction as a complex fraction, okay? And a complex fraction, of course, is a fraction over a fraction. In this case, it's just a fraction over a whole number, but we don't usually put this, so it is a complex fraction. So this is saying, very simply saying, 1/3 out of 100. Now, each one of these squares on these boards equals 1. So we need to actually shade in. That means we need to shade in less than 1. Okay? And if I go ahead and give that a whirl, and I just did it, I would be shading in 1/3 of one of those squares. Okay? I don't even fill in a whole square. Okay? Okay, let's look at this a little bit more closely. Here are our shadings. That was done there now. Okay. Yes, let's go ahead and look at this and ask this question. So, how are these fractions and representations, okay, related to percents? Okay, so you can see our fractions are 30/100ths, 3/100ths, and then 1/3 100ths. Okay, the representations, I guess they're all representations, but in terms of these graphical representations, these are showing us these fractions as well. But how are they related to percents? Well, percents, and here we go, we're going to talk about this, means out of 100, okay, per 100, or out of 100. You can see very well how these boards represent the percentages, and that you can look at how many are shaded in. Well, in the first case, there's 30 out of 100, so that means there's 30%. Okay, so they can always be written as a fraction with a denominator of 100. Okay, so percents can always be written as fractions, right? Whatever you have. Even this one thing right here, 1/3. Well, that letter C. That letter C is actually 1/3 of a percent. Okay, it's not even 1%. It's 1/3 of 1%. Okay, and we'll talk about how to write that or draw that in a minute. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's look at this first one here. Let's look at 30 over 100, okay? So what are some equivalent representations? What are some equivalent representations of it? It, of course, being 30 over 100, 30/100ths, okay? Well, 30/100ths is actually the same as 3 over 10, or 3/10ths, okay? And you can see that right there, because what I've shaded in, or what we've shaded in 3 complete rows out of 10. So here are our complete rows, 3 out of 10. So you can see right away that this 30%, which is what this is over here, is 30%, okay? It is actually equivalent as well to 3 over 10. We can extend that. Of course, 30% we just talked about. which is 3 out of 100. Okay, it is 0.3. Okay, 0.3, which is read as 3/10. Okay, 3/10 is a decimal. It's read as 3/10, which is exactly what this is read as, 3/10. So the fraction and that decimal are read the same exact way. Okay, and 0.30, which is the same as 31/100ths, and that is, of course, exactly what our original fraction had given us. Okay, these are all equivalent. They all equal the same. Okay, 6 over 20. Now we can look at 3 over 10. We can get that 6 over 20. It's 9 over 30. 12 over 40. Okay, these are all equivalent to 3 over 10, or 30 over 100, or 30%. Okay, they are all, there we go, a little bit faster. They all have the same value. Okay, all have the same value, which means that 30% of a candy bar is the same as 31/100ths of a candy bar, which is the same as 3/10 of a candy bar, which is the same as 6/20ths of a candy bar, or 9/30ths of a candy bar. They all have the same value. They just look differently. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look. Let's look at 1/3 over 100, or 1/3 hundredths. Okay. This is the kind of the funkiest one. Okay. It's kind of a funky one. All right. What are some equivalents? Well, 1/3 out of 100, which is what we have here. Okay. If we have 1/3 out of 100, we have 1/3%. Okay. 1/3%, or which is the same as 1/3 per 100, and you can see that right there. We have 100 squares in this picture, but we only have 1/3 shaded in. Okay, so we have 1/3 out of 100, or 1/3 per 100. Okay, and that's written like this. It could also be written differently. It could be written like that, and maybe some of you realize why it has the line over the top of the 3, because the truth is 1/3 as a decimal, you may know, is a non-terminating decimal, but it does repeat, so we can just write like that, because the 3 is the one that repeats. So we don't really need all of these, because they're just going to go on into